they say all men are created equal. Shot! Master! I'll pull out the Glock! Full of suffering, succotash, son!
It's one of your nuts hanging out of your shorts.
Real glass!
You have a father, but your father's dead.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Too Sweet podcast. I'm Lucy and I'm joined by Estelle, and we're back with a review of AEW Revolution, which was last night for us because we're in the UK. It's Monday evening now, so I woke up. I didn't stay up to watch it. Estelle, I know you did. I woke up a bit early this morning, watched them this morning, then watched the rest after work. Somehow managed to avoid all spoilers in that time, which I was quite impressed with myself about. I just didn't really go on my phone. And then, yeah, just since finishing the show about 15 minutes ago, I've been on social media a little bit. I've not seen much fallout from it. All I've seen is memes about the Rizzler. That's basically my entire timeline. So
people are pissed.
I'm not surprised, and I'm sure we'll get into all the reasons why. I'm guessing that's mainly to do with the main event. But yeah, we're going to do what we usually do, which is just work our way through the card. Speaking of the Rizzler, I know neither of us managed to catch the pre-show. So I don't even know what happened other than Rizzler dressed as Orange Cassidy. So that gets
Chris Jericho unmasked Gravity.
Oh no!
If anyone cares.
Oh well, I mean that is disrespectful. That is such a Jericho thing to do. I guess. Wow! Can't wait to watch Collision and see the fallout of that.
There you go.
Well, let's go into the main card then, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like today I've got the equivalent of a wrestling hangover.
Yeah.
That was a lot of wrestling, and for the most part, a lot of really, really good wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
That run towards the end was back to back of just banger, banger, banger. You didn't have time to breathe. You didn't have time to think. You were just. It felt like, and I don't know whether it was because at All In it was a really good card, or whether it was because I was watching it live, but at All In where, you're watching it live and you just can't, your brain cannot catch up with your body because something is happening instantly. It really felt like I was watching it live in the sense of actually being there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to today, to unpacking it all, and that main event. I know it's called Revolution. Maybe it should have been called Status Quo because we were sticking to that for sure. But I want to give, like you say, work through the card and really give the moments to the great wrestling that we got last night, rather than, we will get to that and we will unpack like it's a therapy session, every bit of bullshit of that main event.
Yeah.
But yeah, to start with, also just another disclosure, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I did stay up late last night to watch it, but this first match I watched this morning because most of the time, I believe the pay-per-view starts 9 Eastern time. It started at 8. So I was anticipating that the pre-show was 12 while 1. I couldn't be arsed with the pre-show. I chose to eat food during that time, get myself all fueled up. I sat down at about about 20 to 25. So I'd given myself a decent amount of time to get set up. I click on the stream, Mercedes Momo Watanabe is going on. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? Am I in some kind of like Twilight Zone? So I did miss MJF Hangman. I had to watch it this morning, but it was pretty nice. It was like Boxing Day, Christmas Day's happened. I've still got a little treat.
Leftovers.
Exactly, it was the equivalent of eating leftovers, but yeah, it was a bit annoying and it kind of threw me.
That is so frustrating. I'd be fuming.
Yeah, because a card, it's like an album, and it's meant to be listened to track to track, and we'll get into that later. That the placement of the card is very important for that reason. But I I do kind of like to watch it in the order it's meant to be in, and it really did irritate me.
Oh, it was
But
irritating to no end.
Yeah, so I'll do my best. So the opening match was MJF versus Hangman, sticking with the pattern of MJF opening the pay-per-views. That man likes to get home and get tucked in at a
Yeah.
a reasonable time is the impression that I get.
Yeah, he's in his jammies by the time the main event's starting, you know.
Uh, so yeah, Hangman, the face theme, his old theme song started, which was really cool. But what made it even cooler was it wasn't him; it was MJF baiting the crowd. We had
Of
his
course.
little Burberry scarf moment over the Tron, and then he came down. So already antagonising right out of the gate.
Deepen it a little bit. Maybe that's just him. He wanted the crowd to cheer him. That's why he did it. He wanted that little bit of validation.
Ooh,
Like, oh, they're cheering me. They want to see me.
yeah. This whole match felt like him, as he'd said earlier, about proving his point. That's what this all seemed about, proving his point. And
Mm.
the match, you know, because I watched it the next day, so I've got like a bit of a different view on it. It wasn't to like the higher gears of the other matches, but then that lent itself to the fact that like me and you speculated this is probably going to be a series, so they're going to hold some things back. And the purpose of this match was just to really, if you hadn't already gotten the point of the storyline, to and you know, on the live chat, people were saying, "Oh, like this is good wrestling," but if you don't watch the weekly show, you wouldn't know what's going on. Well, again, why are you paying for watching a pay per view for a show that you don't watch? Number
No, I don't
two,
think anyone would
this
do that.
match in particular, I really disagree with that because you can. It was so clearly intentioned what the storyline was that the angle really took precedent in this match. So that's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. And it was like even, I think pay-per-views are particularly good with like the video packages and stuff to sum it all up in a nice way and you get hyped about the match even if you've not watched every angle going into it. Um, and also I thought the commentators did a really good job of painting, particularly like MJF's character. One thing Excalibur said really stuck with me. He said like that's the most insecure man to ever step in a wrestling ring. It just sums it up perfectly in one sentence. And Tony Schiavone said he needs psychiatric help. He needs a therapist.
Relatable.
And
And
yeah,
to your
that sort of
point,
thing was just relevant throughout the whole match. Sorry to interrupt you there.
no, to your point about the cheering thing, I found that as well in the match when he kept going for those spots and he kept going for those almost the taunt of like soaking up the booze instead of the cheers. I also felt like maybe a small part of him did want those cheers, and
Yeah,
it just he was doing that right to antagonize Hangman, but the more he did it, he was just antagonizing himself up. This
yeah,
match was just MJF winding himself up essentially.
yes, yeah. It really was. Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna rush ahead, but like particularly like towards the end as well. He absolutely broke my heart in this.
Sorry, you look like a cute little minion today.
Oh, because I'm wearing yellow.
Yeah, and the
I'm gonna
little
take that as a
glasses. Sorry.
compliment.
No, it's totally a compliment. It's like a massive compliment.
Oh, thank you, my Gru.
True. The moon. Tonight, minions, we steal the moon. uh, yeah, and it was really great to see the moonsault. It felt like Hangman wrestled more of a face style. I mean, obviously
Yeah,
later on we got the angel wings. You know, you can't get more face and using Christopher Daniels' move as like a tribute. You know, let's just rewrite history. I know I ended this man's career,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
that was really
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah,
And
I'm just gonna say it was really stark, like just the difference between them. Um,
mm,
but also what I thought was interesting, just on that same line, and you just reminded me of it, is the way that MJF wasn't actually really wrestling in a heel sort of way. He wasn't really cheating much. He wasn't taking
that's a great
shortcuts.
point.
He was um he was targeting Hangman's arm for a lot of it, so he couldn't hit the buckshot. I guess that was the rationale behind that. So like that's smart, and he was showing that he is smart. He's not just a cheater. He's showing like he does actually have in-ring ability. And especially when like I was just watching this, particularly in the beginning, thinking, okay, MJF is such a well-rounded wrestler because they were doing like technical stuff and just really basic wrestling, but it was so solid. And it just reminded me, if I'd forgotten, that Max, he can do everything. Like, I think his character work is is his strongest point, but that's not like you strip away all the character stuff, he'd be so solid, just just as a wrestler. He's got all the foundations, the basics like completely down, and I think it's easy to forget that when it's so focused on him being an asshole. But yeah, I think it was interesting how in this match he didn't. And yeah, he was being an asshole a lot of the time, but not by cheating.
Yeah. Um, to me, this was like he wrestled like I said, he did wrestle intelligently, but it was very emotional.
Yeah.
And the impression I got was Hangman wrestled with maybe a little bit more precision. Not to take away from like the technicalities of
Mm,
Max, but I just feel like Hangman was more able to put his emotions aside, which was
yeah.
interesting. It was almost like watching the salvation of one character and the dissension of another, and through the dissension of Max, it's almost like to get himself morally back up, Hangman's like using Max as like leverage to push himself back up, and Max isn't really doing himself any favors. That running pile driver on the chair
Oh my
after being
God.
caught from the moonsault off the barrier and the reversals, which is insane because it was already insane, right? The moonsault barricade, being caught, the reversals, and then you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to do it on the mat. At no point was I ever thinking it's going to happen on the chair. And oh Jesus,
I've
that was
I've never seen
nasty.
anything like that in my life. Like I think one of the commentators said I've never seen a pile driver on a jet like that. It was oh my God, it was really. I mean, I'm going to say this a lot on this episode of the podcast. Spoiler alert. It was really horrible to watch. It was really hard to watch because there was a lot of really violent stuff on this show.
Yeah, this set the tone for the night, baby. Which again, not to dip into the main event, but it made it very stark when it's like so much was done
Yeah,
before.
right?
People were going all out. The
Right?
younger guys were going and gals were going all out.
Yes, that's exactly one of the things I've written down in my notes as well, like basically word for word.
But I loved how it's one thing commentary are telling you he's insecure. It's another thing to infer it from his actions. But it was when they got back into the ring and he was just Mans was having a breakdown. He was like, "What's so special about you?" It
Made
was
me really
cutting. It cut
sad.
right through the match. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so sad.
It made me, because sometimes MJF is so, he's such an asshole. I think, I can't remember why I liked him. God, he's an asshole. I hate him. He really works me over. And then he does stuff like this. I'm like, I love him and I could fix him. And then we're back to square one, baby. And this was one of them moments.
Yeah. Um, and then because it was almost like he was in this overly emotional state, he went for the heat seeker, but Hangman was able to reverse that to the dead eye. I say the angel wings, and then we got the buckshot for the win and a great shot of MJF. He's like jelly on his legs. He's trying to get up, and Hangman is there with that precision in, bam, and he takes the win clean. And the only thing Max has to blame is himself. And like you say, he didn't try to cheat. He did try to wrestle, with the he did the pile driver on the chair. He did some nasty shit, but it wasn't like that. So if his pride isn't already hurting, how much must it be post this match? And yeah,
Mm,
obviously this is only the first installment.
yeah. And like he gave it everything within the rule book that he possibly could, and it still wasn't good enough. So I think that's really interesting for Max going forward. Um, oh, just as well, like that angel's wings, he dropped him like right on his head, like on his face. That was really brutal. There was just so many moments in this match where I was like, I should have a broken neck right now.
Yeah, I
and
think a
some
lot of
damage
people
done.
got banged up.
Yeah, for sure.
Not injured, but I remember Meltzer reporting on it, and he did mention about Max being dropped on his face.
Yeah, yeah, that looked absolutely, I mean, painful as fuck. But yeah, I think I had not doubts about this match, but like concerns that with it not being some sort of stipulation, that would it match like the intensity of the feud, would it get lost on the card? But I think it was a perfect way to start the show with, you know, a non-gimmicked straight up wrestling match that was in its own right very violent and brutal. And I really, really enjoyed it. And, Taz speaking about at the end, like it was, you could tell he felt quite emotional. He was saying like how amazing is it that we've got these two day ones now, kicking off this huge show here in Los Angeles, and it was that felt very real. You could tell that was from the heart.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about the feud going forward will be Hang Max trying to break Hangman. I think he's going to see it as a challenge,
Mm,
and I think there's going to be a lot of tension watching going forward as to if I mean I don't know. I'm just theorizing that it's a series. That's just the impression that I get. But I feel like what's going to be interesting is through this match he wrestled a lovely face match. He finished with Christopher Daniels' finisher. He came out the sporting baby face as it were, but what's going to happen when Max kind of takes a step back, composes himself, and really starts to dig his claws into
yeah.
Hangman? Will it still be the same? I think that'll be interesting to see. Like you say, this was great. It didn't have that gimmicked match, but it'll be interesting to look at that from the future for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I know you said that it maybe, I can't remember exactly what you said that at the start, but like it maybe like wasn't as like, I don't know, like high paced or like as intense as the other matches on the card. But maybe that's to do with the fact that you watched the other ones first, and then you went back and watched this one. So like maybe in comparison,
Yeah,
it felt
exactly.
like
I think
yeah,
that had an impact.
yeah. But like watching this first, it really for me like set the tone, and I was like, wow. And then from then it just went upwards. So yeah, that speaks to what you were saying about like the structure of the card being important. MJF is always just such a perfect opener.
He's very reliable.
Yes.
He's never. He doesn't put on a bad show. He doesn't put on a bad match. He's just you can just bank on him that he's going to go out, and you can trust him with the opening of
Yeah.
the show. This match wouldn't have been out of place even on, and I don't mean it's a bad way, but even on like that opening match of Dynamite where it was just a straight banger.
Yeah, right.
It was
Yeah.
just A to B, great wrestling, straightforward, no gimmicks. No, not that many frills, and just did what it needed to do, told the story, and was great.
Yeah, exactly that.
So, unless we have anything else to add, we'll move
Don't
on
think so.
to the second match, which I might need your more of your assistance on because, like I said, I watched this and I watched I think I'd watched maybe 50%, so I didn't rewatch this match, gang. Um, but yeah, I wasn't too pissed about starting it halfway through because obviously we knew who was going to win, we knew who was going to lose. But my takeaway was this is a highly physical match, no breathing room. Momo ended up tapping out. We had Billy Starks watching on. Momo was busted up. She left on crutches allegedly. This was what you thought it was going to be. And again, like the Hangman MJF thing of it like being straightforward. I mean that in the best way possible. It just delivered the showcase that you wanted it to.
Yes, exactly. And that's not a bad thing, like you say. It's just a reliable, solid wrestling match that you can put at the beginning of a card to get everyone warmed up and everyone really into it. And yeah, I think the crowd was quite hot for this one, and they were, excited to see Momo. I think this was a crowd that appreciated the fact that they were getting to see a Japanese talent who they wouldn't normally get to see like on Dynamite. Um, and yeah, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. It was very strike heavy, very hard hitting. That's kind of what Watanabe like is. That's her specialty. That's her style. And I think Mercedes matched that really well. Um, by the way, Mercedes is so good. She's one of the very best at kicking out at like 2.99999. Like she's the best at near falls. It's so close. She's excellent at that. So there was some near falls like you said, we knew what was gonna happen. Like there was a very slim chance of Momo winning this one. Um, but yeah, there was still some very close moments. Having said that, I do think that this match would have been a lot better if there was more of a story where we believed that our opponent would have won, like could have won. You know what I mean? Like where the tensions were higher, where like you're actually on the edge of your seat thinking, "Oh, who's gonna win?" Like most of the matches in on this card were. But I do think it. I don't know. I think it just suffered a little bit from that lack of tension, but it was still good. I still enjoyed it. It was a showcase more than anything, and that is not a bad thing.
Yeah, and I just feel like other than that, I don't really have that much to comment on. Like I said, I didn't get this. I clicked on and I was like freaked out, like what's going on? But then I
Overwhelmed.
quickly like I tried to lock in. I tried to lock in, and from what I saw, I did enjoy, and it was just like a little. The way I read it is like a little buffer hype match. You know, you've just come off MJF Hangman. You're now getting this fun little and the Hangman Max match was like I say more. Yeah, the wrestling was great, and we got some great technical wrestling, but it wasn't exhibition style. So this was a very different style, and that's another thing I will say about the placements of the matches on the card is that there was lots of I mean, other than perhaps the fact that there was perhaps a lot of blood, the wrestling styles were stark and different, and
Yeah.
it was something new each time. Um, so they had that going for it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Um, I also think I think agree with you, but having said that, I also think that all the matches sort of followed a similar sort of theme in that they all were risky and they all had high spots. And I think this match did fit in with that. We had like a power bomb on the outside that looked really painful, and I've already mentioned like the striking and stuff. So I think it fit into that really well.
Yeah, so next I read Swerve vs. Ricochet, which again I was not ready for. Like, I was thinking I'm going to watch 15 minutes of the pre-show. I might catch a bit of the Costco guys, and then I'm going to
It's
get the
all chilled.
pyro, I'm going to. Exactly! And it's like Swerve Ricochet, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It reminds me of
Uh,
All In when the pre-show just finished. We were like, "Oh, it's
yeah,
not gonna start yet,"
literally!
and then so we went and bought some food. As we were sitting down with our hands full of loads of food, the bloody Blackpool Combat Club were coming down to the ring,
That
and
was so fucking funny.
I
And
was
like it
like,
just felt so inappropriate to eat.
"Yeah, right."
So you're literally watching your favorite wrestler. You want to soak it up, but like you've got this food. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Like overload. So
Yeah, and now
funny.
like my memory of that is it's just associated with like these really spicy jalapenos that were on these nachos. So I just think of that match and I can just taste that in my mouth. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing, but that's true. Yeah.
If you want to relive the match, live that moment, you just need to eat nachos every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Some kind of psychological experiment. Yeah, Swerve came down to the most terrible drum solo I've ever heard. Well, the drum solo wasn't bad to start, but with the music, it was embarrassing.
Oh,
It
it
was
didn't. I didn't
embarrassing.
understand it. It just didn't line up, did it? It was just a dude jamming out on his drum kit.
Uh, yeah, Prince Nani was looking dazzling in this little Diamante McBling moment. Uh, yeah, I We'll cut this. I just need a moment to
That's all good.
to gather what the hell I meant because now we're in the last night's notes and
Yeah.
yeah. So this was again, with the wrestling styles. The I really enjoyed how I kind of compared it to a lion versus a snake. Ricochet being the snake, he had to get his
Love
licks
that.
in fast, because Swerve kind of came with strength. He was meeting him head on, and yeah, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a similar case though of like perhaps the Hangman MJF thing of like Swerve being overly emotional or overly caught up in there's so much pressure to get the road back. But I really, really enjoyed that. And again, I thought it lent itself to the fact that, Ricochet's a heel and he's snaky and he's kind of, he was making moves like that.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's a really good point.
Um, And obviously, I went in with this whole thing of like Prince Nana is going to turn heel, and
Oh, I had this in my mind while I was watching
I
it.
still think that, but I think the purpose of this match was to make it clear to other people. I think I'm 2 steps ahead of the game, right? I
Oh,
think they
of
were like,
course.
we can't pull the
As
trigger on
always.
this one. But the shot that they had of Prince Nana near the robe looking at and Ricochet saying "Come get it," but it wasn't the way I read it. And maybe I'm just delusional. It wasn't in like an antagonistic way. It was in a way of like, yeah, it's yours. You know it's yours. We've got an alignment. Come get it.
Mm,
But maybe I'm delulu.
well, no, I don't think you are, because as soon as you said this, it made complete sense, and I was like, I was bought in on it from the second you told me. So, I was going through this whole match thinking about it, and as well, like when Ricochet unveiled this new robe and he'd done a customization to it. It wasn't as obnoxiously bad as I thought it was going to be. Like it looked pretty. It matched the robe, but it wasn't like a giant print of his face or anything like that. So I was like,
Yeah.
I can see Prince Nana wearing that and rocking it, but well, now he's got, well, not to jump to the end, but now he's got the robe back and it's got that on it. So what's he gonna do? Like unstitch the whole thing? I don't know. Thinking too much about this, I guess.
No, no, and there's a lot of tension as well when a very overt tension when Swerve inadvertently knocked over Nana,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, sort of their like tensions, their disagreements. It was interesting. Um, and I really liked the house call off the barricade to Swerve, and this is
Oh man.
while
Yeah.
Swerve's having this confrontation with Nana, and he comes in, bam, snipes him. And I wrote, it's almost like he's trying to eclipse Swerve, like he's coming behind. It's like a coup. Swerve doesn't
Oh
know
yeah.
what's going on. Nana could have told him that Ricochet was coming in for the house call, but he didn't.
Good
I don't know,
point.
it's just sus, gang.
Good
It's
point.
sus. And at that point, Nana walked off, which was huge. Like it didn't feel like
Yeah.
it warranted that reaction. Like why would he be that upset? He's been bumped plenty of times, which again lent further to my fucking theory that Nana's not for Swerve.
Well, yeah, because Swerve was like beating up Ricochet on the outside, and Nana tried to stop him, and Swerve was like, "Yo, why are you trying to stop me?" and like pushed him. Um, so then it's like, well, why is he why is he trying to stop him from winning the match? Why is Swerve shoving him? Like, yeah, the tension is why.
I also thought this match was really slick. That's the word I would use to describe this. I mean, it's the word I'd use to describe most of Swerve's matches is just incredibly slick.
Yeah,
Man moves like a slinky.
yeah, and the thing about this I thought was it reminded me. I think it worked to remind everyone that Swerve can do the lucha style. We've been there in Lucha Underground, baby. Against
Running
Prince.
it back.
Yeah, we're running it back, just
Prince
without the
Puma.
masks this time. Prince Puma, throwing it back to whatever year that was. Gosh, I can't even remember. A long time ago now. But yeah, it just reminded
Yeah.
me, oh yeah, he can do this. He can match that style. Like, slick is a perfect way to describe it. And yeah, he's a very well-rounded wrestler.
I enjoyed all the ball chants as well.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure, gang. Uh, And yeah, like I wrote last time, Swerve is strong, he's impassioned, but he's not as precise. Uh, we had the vertebraker, which was a really cool move to see to ricochet on the table. God, these tables were strong tonight. What do they make the
Weren't they?
AEW tables out of? Like fucking reinforced or some
Yeah,
shit?
I was
Like
just about
what
to
is going
say
on?
they've reinforced them for tonight, especially.
Uh, Nana takes the robe back, Swerve roll up, kick out. We had Tope onto Nana and Ricochet taking the robe back. And the match wrapped up with the two house calls, kick out, and the big pressure for the win. Um, and then Swerve kneels and he bestows the robe to Prince Nana. It's a very emotional moment. So, as I said, two things to take away. I think my original theory is true, but they wanted to map it out a bit more. And the second thing is that from this match, the ramifications, like, yeah, he beat Ricochet, got the robe back, but also this is the new number one contender. So it was interesting
Yeah.
what the ramifications were going to be in the main event and who was going to win.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's nice to see Swerve back in that main event picture. I guess people would probably complain about that because he's been there before. But it's going to be interesting, whatever they decide to do going forward with the champion, in case anyone doesn't
Especially now he's not a unified front with Prince Nana. That's like a weakness.
certainly
That's
is.
a chink in his armor.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, oh yeah, to sum up, I was just happy that they made up. I was very delighted. I did
Oh,
sort
did
of
they?
think, yeah, well, I did sort of think for the sake of continuing the story, maybe it would have been better if you were right, but I think you got a good point. Like, this doesn't have to necessarily be over now. This could just be the beginning. So yeah, I think this was an entertaining match. I wonder what Ricochet is going to do going forward, but you know, it's not my main concern.
Yeah. Um, and Nana turning heel would be a huge monumentous moment. So I get it
Yeah,
if they want to map it out or if they don't. I mean, even towards the end, I was thinking, what if Swerve ends up turning on Nana? Like, what if?
yeah,
Because that's also a possibility. But I do see for the sake of the development of Swerve, and like we say, he's been to the top. He's already done it before. I think he just needs a bit more edge back into his character, and I think the
mm,
way to do that would be some kind of breakup, whether that be on the count of Swerve being like, "I'm sick of you," you're doing too much, or Nana moving on. I think it's for the better. This was a great match. It delivered, and like I say, it was nice that you had that feel good moment, and
yeah.
obviously this lent itself to the main event when Swerve had to come out and kind of stop a riot essentially. So yeah, right call. Imagine fucking Ricochet came out. I'd be fucking fuming.
Yeah, that would have been awful. That would have been like the worst
Nightmare fuel.
possible timeline. So let's be optimistic, guys, because we didn't get that.
Next up, we got Okada versus Brody King. I do love Okada a lot, and Brody King is great, but this is probably the match where I was just like, when it came up on the Tron and the video package play, I wasn't like the most excited for this. I was like, okay. Um,
I think it was the most forgettable match on the card. Like, and I don't mean that
well, we
from.
forgot to predict it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like when you listing off the card and you're talking about what matches you're excited about, I feel like this was the easiest one to forget.
Yes, we had Okada, Rave, Laser God coming out. Again, this had a different pace into the match before. It had the typical Kazuchika match of wanting to get the job done early, but the opponent demanding the respect, forcing him to move up in gears. Because one thing about Okada is he's a lazy boy. If he can do
Work
it,
smarter, not harder, baby.
he really is. He really is a work smart, not harder type of guy. He got lit the fuck up with those chops. His chest was caved in. It was decimated. Brody King really said, "Are you homesick? Let me help you out with that." Uh, But I did really enjoy their matchup from. I did enjoy the match. I enjoyed the matchup from like the physical sense. It was cool seeing Okada. He's a tall lad. Brody King is a big boy. So it was cool seeing these two uh, go against each other. Um, Okada hits Brody King with the belt, but he kicks out again. You know that is questionable. I think if you're going to bring the belt into it, I'd rather wrap the match up with that spot. Don't I don't want to like cheapen that spot of using the belt.
Yeah, that's a
You
good
know.
point. Like, what's the point of it then? It's just, yeah. And you just know it's going to end matches in the future, regardless. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what is the power scaling of the fucking belt in matches? Like, I just
Yeah.
need a definitive and just stick to the definitive, please. Okada did end up picking up the win, so not much. It was Revolution, like I say, status quo, continuity. We're
Mm,
carrying on.
yeah.
This feud had no impact on either of them. Like I say, it was forgettable. It was fine. It was a fine match. It was a fine little side dish in the buffet that we had, but it was a long ass card. Did we need it? Probably not.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't have missed it really if you left it off, would you? Um, yeah, I like just didn't really get anything down about this one. To me, there was just nothing particularly interesting or notable about it. I felt like it was really weirdly short, but maybe that's just in comparison to the matches that preceded it. Um, I didn't really feel like there was any near falls or danger of Brody winning. I feel like if we did predict it the other day, we would have said, well, Okada's obviously winning. And that was kind of the vibe that it gave throughout. So, yeah, and I'm not saying it was a bad match. It didn't pique my interest much.
So, you made a great point about Mercedes Moné, the predictability, and I think we need to address the Continental uh, belt and also the TNT belt and how the damage of when these belts are kind of just used as like accessories. At one point, the
Mm,
TNT was the second title in AEW. Now it seems it's the international. I think someone made a post on like Reddit today. It was about all the people who've held the international belt and the prestige of it, which I hadn't actually really deeped or thought about. So then I wasn't as spoiler when Kenny did win the belt, and then I've sat with it. I'm like, actually, this is actually a great thing. This is actually a really cool, great thing. Man's
yeah.
uh, a Grand Slam champion in AEW. Now he's won every fucking belt, which is
Oh
really
wow.
cool to add
Yeah,
to
very.
his resume. But yeah, I think it's it's cool to have these fun little exhibition matches. It's cool, and in the essence of Mercedes, it's not as annoying because she's had a lot of high profile feuds. But in the case of Christian Cage, get onto that a bit later, and Okada, it would be really nice to have high profile feuds where it feels like they could actually lose the belt because
For sure.
it's not great. It just stagnates them, and the thing is, they're stagnated at the top, so it's fine. Like it's not broken their aura or broken their
Mm.
prestige, but you're paying good money, especially for Okada. So why people not coming for him, coming for that belt? Why is it not a challenge? Why people just kind of? I mean, I guess Brody King did, but people with maybe in the nicest way possible a bit more prestige and believability than Brody King going after it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we forgot about this match. It's a championship match. Like that isn't normal. Like
And we
it's
literally
not.
talked about it so much as well. We literally were like, "Oh yeah, this matchup, da da da,"
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
there was no stakes, so that's why I think we forgot about it.
precisely. Yeah, it's a championship match should always have stakes, and you should care about it. I don't care what championship it is or who's holding it or who the opponent is. You should care about it. That should be the aim. Um,
Yeah, and the Death Riders, right? Yeah, people don't like the Death Riders. Yeah, the match ending was bad, but I tell you what, as much as people are like, "Oh, I can't be arsed with this," we were all sat, asses glued to the seat, eyes glued on the screen, and we did care because we wanted to see them get beat.
yeah,
So I
right.
will say that.
Exactly, exactly. That's it. That's it. If you're talking about it, you care about it, then. Oh, I mean,
This is
I
just
know.
indifference.
Yeah, exactly. Indifference is the worst thing in wrestling. And listen, I know that people are going to argue until they're blue in the face that, like, well, the Death Riders is bad. I don't, I only care, I don't care about it. It's just really bad and I just want it to end. Like, whatever. Yeah, I know. Fine.
For real.
But that's the worst reaction you can get in wrestling. Is silence. Is nothing like, is indifference. So, you know, I think I'd rather take a Death Riders where we're all very emotionally invested, whether because we love it or hate it, over something that could have just been taken out of the
An
card.
email.
Yeah, this match could have been an email. That is so true. But like, I feel bad saying that because I love Okada and like Brody King as well. I'm not like
Yeah, it was
world's biggest
great.
fan, but he's a good wrestler too, and there was nothing wrong with the match. So I do feel really bad saying this, and I don't want it to get misconstrued that we're saying that Okada sucks. Not at all. We just mean that like there should be more prestige on that belt. I think what you said, Estelle, about it being like more of an accessory is very true. Like it's just a prop. What what are we attaching to this belt? Does it matter? Do people want to chase it? Doesn't really seem that way.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost like it's so intrinsically entwined with Christian and Okada. But then, you parallel that with Orange Cassidy and the international belt, and that was so entwined with Orange Cassidy, but he was defending it every fucking week. So you can still have the belt be so personal and close, and it's not going to lose prestige. It's only going to gain it, and it made Orange Cassidy so cool, and it made when he lose it cool. Whereas when Christian loses the TNT, or when Okada loses the Continental, it's just going to be like, oh, thank God, something new. Rather than when Orange Cassidy lost it, I wasn't thinking, oh, thank God, something new. I was thinking, oh, like, that's cool, something new. But the other 50% was, damn, like, he had a good reign. He had a really good reign with that, and that's a shame. But I'm not going to feel like that when these guys lose their belts.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows, you might forget about that match on the card when we're making our predictions again. So, mm.
So, we're about to get into the oh no, we're not. I nearly forgot that. I'm sorry. I was like, no, I was
Speaking
like,
of
oh my god.
forgettable,
That is so bad.
that's like the third time we forgot about this match, by the way. Like, if if you go back and listen, well, you probably won't, but our Dynamite review just gone where we did Revolution predictions. We we talked about the Outrunners, and I was like, what are they even doing at Revolution? And Estelle was like, well, they're fighting the Hurt Syndicate. And I was like, oh shit, yeah. We went to do predictions, and Estelle was like, right, we're doing our predictions. I was like, well, we didn't do the tag team match. And now we've just forgot about it again. We were ready to skip right over that.
My point was that this pay-per-view was like 3 acts, right?
Mm,
Or four, maybe. It was like the first arc was like, yeah, those good buffer matches, warm you in. The second part is like the forgettable part. The third part was like the banger on banger match, and then the fourth is the main event. So I was like, oh, we're getting into the bangers, but no, we're still in the dark ages. So
we're
the
trudging
Her
along.
Syndicate versus the youngest men alive. And do you know what? This was better than what I thought it was going to be. I will give it that. It's similar to Okada Brody King. I did actually enjoy. Maybe it didn't come across in the review we just did, but I really did enjoy the physical wrestling
Hmm.
uh, part of it. We had Top Flight watching on, and I thought the Outrunners got a really nice showing, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't
Mm,
expecting them to get their shit in to the degree that they did. But this match was weird because it was very quick. It was like the
yeah, it
the
was.
Outrunners that they get their shit in, and then the Hurt Syndicate just annihilate them within 30 seconds, and the match is over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So it was a bit weird.
yeah. It was. That's what I thought too. Just really short. Like the pacing was just a bit weird because just as you thought they were maybe getting into it, like you said, it was just over, and it did feel quite like blunt. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like just the ending was a
Yeah,
bit like, whoa, okay, well,
abrupt.
yeah, abrupt. Like I didn't like I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it was coming then. Um, yeah, it felt a little bit premature. Um, I didn't really think that Outrunners were particularly over with the crowd. I mean, maybe you could hear the getting a reaction when they were like sort of like hulking up, like doing their shtick. But on the hard cam, everyone was sat down. Not a single person was cheering or even smiling, like on the hard cam. And I don't know, I just felt like maybe there was a bit of a disconnect with this crowd. I just feel like this crowd didn't really know them that well, and I feel like that probably didn't help either. Um, but yeah, like you said, they got quite a lot of their shit in, more than we probably expected. But I mean, right in the opening moments, Nigel McGuinness said, "If the Outrunners win, I'll commentate on Collision next week in my underwear." And I love
Damn,
Nigel
listen out.
McGuinness. I love Nigel McGuinness. That's funny, but I was just a bit like, "Oh, that's mean. That is so mean." Because we're all
Uh,
thinking it. You don't say it out loud.
yeah, and the fact that like they got as much shit in as they did made it even weirder. It was like they were really trying to overcompensate for the fact that
Mm,
everyone knew, like you say, Nigel Williams, everyone knew the Outrunners were going to lose. So they were like, how can we get the Outrunners, the Hurt Syndicate, that is? I felt like they were really, really trying to get the Outrunners over while maintaining a dominant victory. The thing is, the two things just didn't work together. So, like,
yeah,
because
right.
it would only have worked if they'd had enough time to really expand it out and earn the respect of the Hurt Syndicate and Hurt Syndicate undermining him, and
Mm,
that would have worked. But in the time frame that we had, with what we had to play with, it was just a bit disjointed. It didn't work, but it was fun and it was enjoyable. But it's just like we're back to square one. I didn't need to see the match. I could have already told you what was going to happen without seeing the match.
yeah,
So, and like I say, the crowd, they were still sat down. They still weren't any more into the Outrunners than they were before. And that's not on the Outrunners. It's just on the build. It's just on the literal, the way they won this title opportunity was an afterthought. This match felt like an afterthought, and hopefully the next feud, or whether they're going to continue this on, there's a bit more thought and a bit more stakes being put into it, because it's difficult. You want the Hurt Syndicate to be really, really dominant. I get that. That's like your MO.
hmm
But they do need to overcome challenges. They do need to, overcome some formidable people. But when the playing field is the way it is on the tag division, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, me and you will be the first to say that, like, just dominant, really big, strong men gets boring after a while when that's your only thing. And I'm not at all saying that the Hurt Syndicate is boring. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just like you say, they need a challenge to overcome. If they just squash everyone in their path, that is going to become old real fast. So yeah, yeah, you're right. They just need something to dig their teeth into properly.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's move on now, like I say, to
Act
the
three,
real,
the
yeah,
bangers.
Act 3. Miley Cyrus, The Bangers, Match of the Year contenders, and a hot spot to find ourselves in, because we had Tony versus Mariah,
Oh my.
and people were already bitching before this started. We want this to main event. We want this to main event. I kind of gave AEW a bit of leeway when this came up. I was like, well, I guess it depends whether the Death Rider's the angle they're going to do and yada yada. But now we've watched the show, we've watched both matches. We can say, hand on heart, fuck me, what a mistake it was to not put this on last.
Yeah, and we touched on this on our the last episode where we did predictions, and it like you just said, it's hard to say like without the gift of hindsight. With foresight, it's difficult to say should this match be the main event, what order should the card be in, because well, one, you don't know what it's going to be, you don't know where the other matches are going to be. Like we've already talked about, the pacing's really important, and also like it, it's to do with the matches on the night as well and how they deliver. So with hindsight, it's really easy to say, but you know, and like we discussed on the last episode, a lot of people did, and like you've just mentioned, people were bitching that it should have been main event, and like I said in the last episode, I totally understand and agreed to an extent that like this match was the one with a lot of excitement behind it. It was a really long story, but then I'm realizing that everything I'm saying also applies to the Death Riders as well. So it is really hard. These are two, on paper, top tier matches that should have been main event, but with the gift of hindsight, Mariah May versus Toni Storm delivered far more than the actual main event did. It was far better.
But we don't have hindsight and foresight, but Tony Khan does. And he must have known, he had right up until the wire, he must have known that, especially with what was booked for the main event, which we'll get into, that was never going to be popular. It was never going to send the crowd home in a happy mood.
Yeah.
This was solid, it was reliable, you had people saying right up until the wire, this is what they wanted. And the thing is, right, I really do think people would have been a bit less forgiving on the main event had it been not the main event. Had it been in this spot, I think people would still be pissed, but nowhere near to the same degree that they would have been.
Yeah.
And especially, Hollywood ending. How cool would it have been to end the pay-per-view at the end, at like the end card, and it's that scene, and it would have just fit. It would have fit so perfectly.
Yeah. And they could have done even more with the branding as well of the show. Like they could have themed it around that sort of thing. Like, I'm not talking like WrestleMania goes Hollywood type to that extent, but you know what I mean. Like just a little bit more leaning into that. That would have been really cool.
Yeah. And we had a lot of Hollywood stars in the crowd
Yeah, how fun.
as well, which was it was interesting watching their reactions, especially towards the main event. That was probably my favourite
Oh
part,
my
just
God.
the distaste towards it.
Yeah, shout out to Ken Jeong because he was on his feet the entire show. He was so invested. He was sat right behind the announce desk.
He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy in that main event.
He weren't.
He was loving that steel cage match. He was not loving that bullshit.
Yeah.
Leslie Jones.
I
I
mean,
don't know Leslie Jones, but she was popping off.
Is she the one who they kept on putting the camera on during the Swerve Ricochet match?
Yeah, and then they were like, "Is that
Yeah,
Swerve's mum?"
Yeah, that was
We're
really
like, no,
bad.
it's Leslie Jones, babe.
Yeah. That she was so into it. She's literally me.
She
Like,
is us
yeah.
after a pint of wine at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, no, literally.
That's what we're doing up in the rafters.
Yeah, she's reflecting us all, but she just happens to be front row.
Oh my god. I hope I'm never front row for a wrestling show because I
Yeah.
would embarrass the fuck out of myself. I know
No.
that for a fact.
Yeah, same. Same.
Yeah, so the Hollywood ending, big expectations going in, a lot of pressure. Did they deliver? Abso-fucking-lutely. So we had Mariah, she came out in bridal gear, which was interesting. Like you said, it's leading to that ending trope. You say in a movie someone dies or someone gets married, and I felt like the ending was a bit of both because
Yeah, it was.
someone died, but it was romantic and it was
I thought they
a
were gonna
beautiful
kiss.
shot at the end.
At the end, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be right again. They're gonna kiss. Because just by the way, up until this point, like all my predictions were right, and I was like, I'm not gloating or anything.
Yeah, no,
But I did feel pretty
glazed
smug.
those predictions. You did.
I did feel pretty smug. But yeah, the hatred between these two was so strong. But you could sense the love, especially not to jump to the end before we've got there, but they were cuddling, bathing in each other's blood at the end of this match. It was so beautiful in a sick and twisted way.
Yeah. We had JR on commentary as well, and I really
Oh
enjoyed
my, yes.
his contributions. I thought he did really well.
I totally agree. I thought he added a lot to this. Like, I feel like people could get pissed off at his observations because he kept on saying things like regardless of gender, or I've commented on a lot of women's matches and none of them were like this. I feel like people you could get pissed off at that. You could take it one or two ways. But the way I looked at it is it just felt very real. Like it felt like
He's
that was
speaking from his personal
yeah,
experience.
yeah, exactly that. And it made me feel like it gave it more gravitas and I was like it made me feel a little bit emotional actually. I was just like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, because this wasn't just like the best women's match in AEW. It was like one of the best matches. It was one of the best matches in wrestling as a whole. It really, this feud and this match, it really had the impact. And I think as well, like this feud has been great and the character work's been great, but the matches have been quite short and they haven't fully. I'm not saying they haven't delivered, but I think it's more cinema rather than the matches. But this match really conjoined and brought the two together in a really poetically violent way.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. And as well, you reminded me of one specific thing that JR said, which was he said something like, "These are two of the biggest women's wrestlers in the world," and then he was like, "Well, I retract that statement. Two of the biggest stars. Period."
Yeah,
And
period.
that perfectly sums it up. And that in particular, I was like, yeah, that's touching. Like hearing that from him. And like the crowd was so hot for this. I mean, I think this is the loudest they had been so far um in this show. So I mean possibly the loudest that they were all night. Um so it just yeah, exactly. That just sums it up, doesn't it?
Sometimes I feel like Tony Khan could take a leaf out of Triple H's book, which he kind of did towards the end with that main event. Sorry, but it's just relevant to both of these matches. You know, it was very self-indulgent, uh, Triple H early 2000s type match. But what I mean is take a leaf out of his book, a feather out of his cap, if you will, in the respect of booking, because he does he sees women's wrestling in the respect of not doing it for the sake of tokenism, and women shouldn't main event just so you can say, oh, like, look at the women wrestling, the women, like it's a gimmick. It should be who is the best, and
Yeah, exactly.
whoever's the best, whoever's got the best story should be headlining. And you know, I do feel like if he was running this, this would have been the main event because it's got the most clout. It delivered better, and
Yeah.
that's got nothing to do with gender. That's just the facts.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said earlier, like, oh, we don't have the gift of foresight and hindsight, but Tony Khan does. I was like, shit,
Yeah, he
you're
fucking
absolutely
knows.
right. You're absolutely right. So
And
I
he's
can,
chronically online as well.
so
He
true.
knows. He knows.
So true. And it's not like, oh, it's just female fans saying this. It is everyone. Everyone seemed to be, one of those rare times when,
Yeah.
wrestling fans agree.
Yeah, so we had Mariah running straight for Tony, which, you know, you see this a lot, like people running for people running for entrances and stuff. But she was set on her. It was
Yeah.
violent right out from the gate. Uh, and we had Mariah tasering Luther and kicking him over the
Oh, that was
table,
popping.
which was really cool. This
Yeah.
this match just felt like, you know, I'm very picky about street fights or hardcore matches. This
Hmm.
match did feel like chaotic in the way of I need to hurt this person fast. It's not I need to plan this spot and I need to grab this weapon. It was what's the
Yeah.
thing that I could grab to hurt people. It was like fucking survival mode. These two. It was like
Mhm.
I can't explain it. It was a literal horror movie fight to the fucking death.
That's so true. It was so smooth, wasn't it? You didn't watch this thinking, oh, they're moving on to the next spot. Yeah, it did flow very nicely from one thing into the next, and it had like
It's
enough
frantic,
time. Yeah, it was
frantically
frantic.
smooth.
Yeah, and it had enough time to breathe and for it to not be rushed. But at the same time, it went by so fast because it was so good.
and these women, God, the colour that both of them got,
Oh,
which
especially
definitely
Tony.
added to it.
Yeah, it did. It was really hard to watch, like, because they zoomed in on Tony's face and you could see it
On that white
pouring
makeup as
out.
well.
Yeah.
It really contrasted, and yeah, absolute crimson mask. Just, ooh.
And
Uh,
again, it's
and then
sorry to
Mariah
interrupt you.
mockingly wiping her. Yeah, yeah, go on.
Yeah, exactly that. And also, like, you just don't get that often with women's matches, do you? Just the full on serious bleeding. And that, again, it kicks it into another gear and it really makes you take notice of it.
Yeah, it's a great advantage of women's wrestling though, is that people don't expect these things, so
That's
when
so
you
true.
do them, they still have prestige. Whereas in men's wrestling, especially in AEW, people make eye contact and they start bleeding. People take one foot into the ring and they start bleeding. Whereas with the women, it's the advantage of, not to lean into the whole token women thing, but people don't expect that of women, and so they've got that on their side, and hopefully they still kind of keep it for big matches, because I wouldn't want them to just do it all the time in the respect that the men do, because they're in a great position with it right now where it really does take it to the next level.
Yeah, exactly that.
So it should be protected.
100%.
As I said, Mariah mockingly wiping her. Then we had the broken glass, Tony with a fistful of
Oh
it into
my.
the mouth of Mariah. Tony pouring the broken glass on the mat and then digging the glass into Mariah's forehead was pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah, yeah. And who was it who got broken glass to the crotch?
Tony.
Because that was horrible as well. It was so hard to watch, but there's something I've really switched up on, like, this style of match quite recently. I used to find it really difficult to watch and hated it, and now I've switched to, like, the opposite, where I think the point of these matches is you enjoy it in a sick kind of way, like, what can they put themselves through next? But this one especially, I feel like broken glass is more real in a way, because I feel like we all know what it's like to get a bit of broken glass stuck in your hand or something. It really fucking hurts, and like the little shards and how painful it is. It just felt really real compared to other extreme matches for some
It's
reason.
not something you see as often, the whole sugar glass, broken glass.
Mm.
Real glass. It's not something you see as often. So yeah, it has more effectiveness, and I think it's an art form in it. This match, it's arrow, it's the
Yeah.
visuals, and it's the same respect of horror movies. A lot of people don't like gore, but gore is art because it's not fucking real, and it's SFX, it's makeup, it is an art form, and this is an art form. It's art in the way that they're selling. It's such a difficult match in terms of tempo and not making it look robotic. I pick up this one thing, or this is the glass spot. This is, and it never. I know we're breaking it down into spots, but it never felt like that. It felt like,
Yes.
as I say, frantically smooth. It
Yeah,
never felt
exactly.
rehearsed or anything like that. It was like these two women are gonna kill each other, and again, like you say, there's this fear, but also this like sick fear of when will it end, but also when will it end? It's shocking, it's carnival, it's circus, it's cinema, it's pro fucking wrestling.
Exactly. That is so true. And then the commentator said this looks like a car wreck. And there was so many great camera angles. Like, they have this bird's eye view camera, which I really like, that
Mm.
was really great in this one, because it sort of panned out from Tony Storm's face, which was covered in blood, to, she was lying on the mat amongst blood-stained canvas with broken glass everywhere. And it really was, yeah, like you say, it really was work of art.
Yeah. So the ending, which was the real work of art, right? This we've done a lot. We've had a lot. We've been eating, but the dessert of this match So Mariah grabs the bloodied heel, which is it's where it all began, and this is the Hollywood
Yeah.
ending. So, but we're taking it back to the beginning, uh, and as well like the stomp. Yeah, she grabs the bloodied heel. Tony gains the advantage, and the stomp on the belt was really impactful because, like, yeah, using the belt as a weapon, but also like this is what she's chased for. This is what they've lost. These women have lost their minds and their friendship over is the belts. I thought that was really fucking uh poetic. And then
Yeah.
whipping Mariah with the belt, as Mariah had done to Tony. It was bringing it back full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, there's no way that doesn't fucking kill. Like that looked so painful. You can't. How can people say wrestling's fake? I mean, watch this. How do you whip someone with a fucking massive metal belt and it not really hurt?
We had the Mayday on the stage as well. Uh, Mariah with the heel on the Hollywood sign. Tony grabs it and strikes Mariah. Again, pure poetry. This is what was done to her. But what added to this was the Storm Zero through the table, which was the Hollywood sign for the pinfall. And as I say, Tony cradling her broken and bloodied protege, and that shot, that almost bird's eye view shot of these two women. And yeah, I just love that of using the heel and then going through the Hollywood sign, the Hollywood ending, and what you'd said, I think really added to it for me. Of at a movie, someone dies or someone falls in love, and this was romantic
It was, yeah.
and brutal in the same way, and it was just, it just you can't even find the words to describe how good of a journey we've been on, and again the pressure to live up to in this match. We can't
That's
look
a very
past
good
that. It
point.
was insurmountable, and they fucking delivered. So you
That's
know,
yeah, that's such a good point as well because it's easy to cripple and so much pressure and that. How do you top the other two matches that you've had? How do you end this story in a way that's going to match people's expectations? But it did exceed my expectations. I loved the way, like you said, they brought it full circle. That you know, Tony was like cuddling into it at the end. There was blood everywhere, and they were embracing. Um, she ended it the way it started, but they were still embracing. And I love the way like the crowd cheered at that as well. It was appreciated by everyone. So yeah, it was just beautiful. I literally had goosebumps watching it.
yeah, yeah. It was, as we say, one of the greatest matches of all time. Doesn't need to be said. Match of the year, contender,
Yeah, 100%.
and yeah, I don't know where we're going from here, but I fully trust these two women and RJ with the vision,
Yeah,
whatever's happening next. I'm completely with them. Uh,
yeah,
for
let
for
them cook.
sure, and what a journey. Let them
Yeah,
cook.
it's been fantastic. I mean, I don't even know how long it's been going on for, but it's been a treat from start to finish.
About a
How
year
often?
now.
Yeah, surely it's been quite a long time. How often do you say that about a feud that like it's been going on for an extended amount of time? Not that often.
Yeah, so after that, we then got Takeshita versus Kenny for the international title. And this was good, but it took a bit of adjustment because I think this wasn't what we were expecting, right? I think we were expecting an exhibition match and a flippy match, but what we got was more technical, and there was a lot of like ring psychology and a lot of working over certain body parts and methodically winning
Yeah.
rather than this like explosion that was going to happen. So I appreciate how they did something a bit different, I think, than what people were expecting and what I was expecting.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it comes back to what we've been saying about Kenny having to adjust his style coming back to the ring after his time off, his whole health ordeal. So at the same time, yeah, I guess it was I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was gonna say. Um, it was
Valid.
good. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, maybe it didn't. Um, but just a bit different to what you expected, but not at all in a bad way. Um, I thought you know, like you said, the psychology, the storytelling was really effective, and I think they've done it a few times now, but it's still really brutal when they go after Kenny's midsection and they talk about his surgery that he had and things like that. It's still really impactful. Um,
And you got all of that on the rest of the card, didn't you, as well? So it's not like you needed it in
so
this
true,
match.
so true. Yeah, you know, you need that bit of variety or else it gets boring. So yeah. Um, I liked Don Callis on commentary as well. I like the way that AEW tags people in and out of on commentary on pay-per-views because you know commentary is really tiring and it's a way of keeping people fresh and also giving people a chance to you know everyone a chance to have a nice moment on the commentary desk. But Don Callis is brilliant. I mean, I say it until I'm blue in the face, but he's really good and on commentary he does add a lot to it. He really sort of drove home how Kenny is he clearly saw him as a threat because he was very on edge the whole time, but also like the fact that you know they've beat him in the past. You know he's trying to play off that he's not scared of him and things like that. But then he was attacking him behind the referee's back. So that sold Kenny as a threat even more. So I thought that was really good as well.
And with Callis as well, he's absolute chicken shit heel. Everyone
Yeah.
hates him during this match. He's getting his shots in. But the thing that makes Don Callis so great on commentary is he never ever, even though they've got massive heat, he's such a heel, he never ever buries the opponent. He always puts them
Yes.
over.
That's
It's
exactly
really
what I
great.
mean. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Um, it I think it's quite hard to do that as well. Like I think some people do find it hard to be a heel without burying people, or you know, without just completely just chatting shit about them. Um, but he's very good, and that makes him more credible because what he's saying is in a way quite logical and makes sense. So that makes him an even better heel. That's it. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So like the ring psychology, Kenny's here to teach a lesson. Takeshita is here to dominate. He is here to, both of these men have a strong game plan. Takeshita was on Kenny instantly. We had the setting up of the tables. Also, I couldn't get over that line that someone said on commentary. Kenny's hands are at least 10 inches wide. I was like looking at my hands like, what?
Cheers.
I don't believe that. He's like 5'11".
Yeah, that is definitely not true.
That's some bullshit.
That is bullshit.
But it just, yeah, it's frying my brain. Need this closer. Kenny being thrown into the barricade. Takeshi's plan feeling purposeful. It felt like he was trying to keep it out of the realms of technical wrestling by setting up the table, as if throwing him around, working over the midsection, the gut wrench on the abdomen. Kenny spiked on the underside of the table and the side
Oh
for
my
good
gosh, that
measure.
was horrid.
Not breaking, so that like that was good though, the reinforced table, not breaking for the DQ, but the way they were doing it anyway, so that he wasn't going to go through it, I thought was really inventive and a cool spot.
Yeah,
Obviously, Kenny got booed when he tried to turn it upside down. How dare he?
that
How
was
dare he
so
not try to
funny.
end this in DQ?
That was so funny. And then they try to rationalize it on commentary as well. But yeah, like how you don't get that. You never see that in a wrestling match, do you? Like it's just subverting your expectations. You see a table get set up, someone's gonna go through the middle of it, and
Yeah.
it's gonna crack in that really nice, satisfying way.
But I wanted that ASMR Blue Fonda bomb,
Oh, I
guys, like we spoke
know.
about in that ASMR. I needed it.
Yeah, our TikTok.
Yeah,
Um,
TikTok.
yeah, we needed that extra TikTok content, but no.
Oh, fuck's sake. I wrote, this match feels like a dissection. We had the
So
damage to
true.
the midsection. So he couldn't do the one-winged angel.
but he wins with the roll up after Don had tried to bring Takeshita out of the ring, and he used that momentum to pull him back in, and for the roll up and won. And yeah, obviously that was not my prediction, so I was quite taken aback. But I was happy. I was happy to see it, and it was refreshing. The match was refreshing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There was a lot of like really big near falls. I think I think this like these last three matches were the most unpredictable ones. So you really were like on the edge of your seat, not knowing
Were
who
locked
was
in.
gonna win. Um and in particular, I was really on the fence about this one. Um but I was really pleased to see it because especially because what they were saying on commentary, I think Tony Schiavone was the one who said like, "This is a message for everyone watching: never give up, always push yourself to the absolute limit if you have to." It's like it was very
Oh.
inspiring, um, and also like Taz saying Kenny didn't know if he would ever be back in the ring. That's not some BS lie. That's the truth. That's a shoot. None of us here in AEW knew if he'd ever come back. And again, like, yeah, the commentary team were just on fire tonight. There was so many great moments where you could tell they were really speaking from the heart, and that really did add to it.
So the next match, I think I wrote the most notes about out of any match. I think I don't know, right, gang, because I did really enjoy the Hollywood ending. I think it's like a toss up between that and this for like match of the night. This was really, really, really good. And I think on any other night, if the Hollywood ending hadn't have occurred, this would have been the most talked about. So it
Mm,
is a bit of a shame. It is bittersweet, but you can't complain about having too much good wrestling, can you?
I mean, no, you can't. It was a really stacked card. We knew that from the start. It was going to be hard to stand out. So yeah, there was a high bar to live up to.
Yeah, so this was a steel cage match, and this was cool because I don't know if Fletcher's ever done one, but I know Osprey hasn't done like a proper steel cage match before, so it was cool
Oh,
to
that's interesting. I
to
didn't
to
know
see
that.
him. Yeah, it was interesting when they both arrived. They did not go through the door. They rose. Also, can we just talk about, because I forgot about this now? What was that fever dream rave? DNB, sorry, I nearly said BDSM, and I don't know why. I was trying to think of the right acronym. DNB, freaking dubstep bullshit before Osprey. That wasn't. It wasn't anything. The music wasn't any. It wasn't like a rendition of his theme or anything. It was just 1 minute of pure beats. No
Yeah,
one knowing how to react to it, and then him just making his vanilla entrance. What was that about?
yeah. I don't know what that was about. That was just horrific dubstep that really hurt my ears to listen to. I'm glad that you said that because I was thinking the exact same thing. Don't know what the point was.
It's like that drum solo. Like,
Yeah, what
what
was
were
that
going
about?
on?
No one even
Where was the
mentioned it
heading?
either. Like we just sort of moved swiftly past it as if it didn't happen.
Yeah, we tried to forget. Um, yeah, it was cool how they were both like assassins at the top of the cage, making eye contact. And again, I really liked this because it was like Osprey's first time in the cage, and he really presented that in his wrestling. Like, you could tell when they were planning this match, he thought to himself, "Well, how would Will Osprey react to being in a cage for the first time?" So we had him having to work out the match in front of us, which was really cool. Like him being limited with the apron space and
Oh yeah,
not being
love
able
that.
to like flip off that. I really appreciated that,
Yeah,
figuring out
me
the physics
too.
of the cage.
Yeah, because I feel like WWE has counter conditioned me to this type of match where like you just don't consider things like that. You don't consider the psychology of it. Like I don't know, like that's never really a thing where it's like, oh, this wrestler has to adapt because they can't use all that space. They're a high flyer and now they can't springboard off the ropes. You just don't get that, and that was a different angle on this. That yeah, like you said, that was it was good at looking at it in a different way. Actually giving the stipulation, the gimmick, meaning. It's not just it's not just a prop. It did definitely play into the dynamics of the match.
Yeah, they used every inch of the cage.
Yep.
They left the cage, they scaled the cage, they flew off the cage. They weaponized it. They using the exposed turnbuckle, uh, Osprey getting colour being rubbed onto the cage, and Kyle licking it off. Uh,
Feral.
Very maniacal. It was very stiff, this match, which is the greatness of these two really trusting each other and really
Oh
being
yeah.
so close that they were just like, they knew that they could go all out with one another, so that also made it a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, I got that with the whole card really. Like most of the matches felt that way. Like let's try something risky, let's do something big. Let's make this something to remember. I got that in almost every single match.
Yeah. Uh Kyle just ragdolling himself around, being thrown into the cage, his full weight, and then dropping like dead weight
Yeah.
from the turnbuckle. That was so simple, such a simple thing to fall back, but he made it look, I don't know, like the worst thing he'd ever taken.
Yeah. I think that's a big strength of both of these wrestlers is how good they are at selling. And like you said, they used every inch of the cage, and I was really taken aback by how good they were at selling how painful the cage was. I actually believed it. Like I say, watching WWE and they sort of overdo this type of match to the point where it doesn't really mean anything. I sort of don't believe it. I don't really believe that it hurts. But then in this one, I did.
Yeah, and as I said, there's a lot of blood loss, which made things like the spiking DDD counter so impressive. How they're able to be so coordinated and get
Mm.
that strength when I imagine you'd be feeling very weak, very lightheaded.
Yeah.
It's never lost on me that I think that's so impressive.
Yeah, and even something as simple as the blood getting in your eyes as well, and you could, no doubt that affects your
Yeah,
eyesight, and you can still,
oh, makes me cringe.
yeah, I mean, I can't do anything when I take my glasses off, so I don't know how they do it, I really don't.
We had Mark Davis breaking the lock of the cage, bringing in more weapons because that's what we need. Uh, we had Osprey raking Carl Fletcher's face with the bat again, which I enjoyed using the bat in a competent way.
Yeah.
AEW always uses the weapons competently, and I feel like I am also getting over my WWE trauma of, like you say, the cage not having meaning. But for me, I think it's street fights, and I think AEW's really helped me come out of that. So shout out to that because yeah, I'm starting to have I'm starting to actually be scared when weapons come out, whereas before I wouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, like we've said it multiple times, a sledgehammer, just cave the skull in. No, Triple H would be hitting you in the midsection with that thing. It makes no sense.
And Kyle Fletcher begging, putting on the wristband, like old time's sake. Osprey just gave him the finger, but he received a low blow, and then we had Fletcher wiping his blood with the band and shoving it in Osprey's mouth.
Ugh, sicko.
Which, yeah, Kyle is the ultimate sicko, I'm afraid. Uh, the hidden blade to the Stormbreaker, and Davis comes in, choking Osprey out. Helps Kyle Fletcher up. Sorry, I'm trying to read my handwriting. Yeah, and then Osprey has this really cool like superhero moment of like desperation, and he's able to, through a series of maneuvers, like crawling away, crawling through the legs of Kyle Fletcher, push Mark Davis out, and then we get the Os cutter off the cage. I thought this was a really cool little sequence and believable. It was believable in the way that he turned the tides, rather in wrestling where it's like suddenly this guy gets one punch in and now suddenly he's got control of it. This, I don't know, the flow of it. It was really nice.
Yeah, yeah. It was never jarring, and yeah, the structure was good. It definitely flowed very smoothly.
Yeah. So then we had Osprey wrapping barbed wire around his elbow. trying to set up for the hidden blade. They climb up the cell. We've got Kyle Fletcher with the screwdriver. Brainbuster on the chair, which I forgot about until reading this out. There was that so much freaking going on. Osprey getting his screwdriver shot in, and then the conclusion to the match, which is the most talked about spot potentially of the night and definitely of the match, was the Spanish fly off the
Yeah.
cage. I mean, you knew they were going to do something crazy off the
Yeah.
cage. You knew it was coming, but still, I think it was like you say, commentary adding so much to these matches, and they were like, it was true that the whole arena and everyone at home, I was holding in a breath. I was
Yeah.
shitting myself, especially watching it live, because it hits differently when you're watching it live,
Oh,
because you're like,
100%.
people could actually die. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's so true. Yeah, that was horrific, especially considering there was thumbtacks in the ring as well. You add that onto what
Oh
was
yeah, I forgot about
already an insane
and
spot.
Kyle getting the fucking dick to thumbtack
Oh,
contact.
I'm so glad you
Jesus
said that because
Christ.
yeah, I thought the same. On the Styles clash, Dick
Yeah, the Styles
first
Clash, yeah.
straight into the thumbtacks.
Kyle Fletcher, man,
Nasty.
what a guy. So the conclusion as well, I really loved how we had this climax of this move, but then Kyle Fletcher really sold it for me with "I hate you, I fucking hate you." Like it was so violent, it was so like the
Yeah.
adrenaline uh was flowing. Uh but Osprey, yeah, he gets the pin. He ends up winning the match, and he ends up stumbling out. I think he got pretty fucked up from that match, and I think I haven't heard anything about injury from Fletcher, but the way all the doctors were in and they were kind of like straightening his neck, it looked really, really gnarly. Even though you knew he was fine because you'd seen him be screaming after being taken in a Spanish fly, but I was
Mm.
like, damn, like, oh, it was, whew,
It was very
it
real.
was
I mean, everything
very,
like the physical aspect as well as the emotional aspect, like it all felt very real. The way he was screaming at him and almost like crying was very emotive. Yeah. Um, and just the way Fletcher's like changed his look so much just by shaving his head. He looks so different. I was really struck by that in this match. He was kind of giving like Randy Orton. I think with like his tattoos and like the bald head and very muscular, like very toned. I was like, yeah, he's giving Psycho like Randy Orton when he was punting people in the face and ending careers type Randy Orton. That was the vibe I was getting. But yeah, just yeah, everything about this, the presentation, the pacing, like you mentioned, it felt very real in terms of like I've said, emotions and the physical. The fighting. Yeah, it was just a level above.
and this Hangman MJF, Mariah, Tony Storm, maybe you can even include Ricochet Swerve in this. All of these matches are spurred on by jealousy and insecurity as opposed to simply just, I want the
Mm.
title. I know sometimes the titles have been kind of around in the picture, but they've really put like the human emotion at the forefront of
Yeah.
these matches, which is really cool and yeah, adds to the realness and just yeah, it is so striking visually how Cal Fletcher looks, and then so when he's like licking the blood and
Yeah.
his eyes are looking crazy. It is really striking, and he's not the little Aussie Open boy that he used to be of
Oh,
yesteryears.
that reminds me as well. Like, I liked the way that Matt Davis was used in this. I feel like because it made you cast your mind back to when they were a team, and then you sort of still had that thing of him choosing between them, um, without him being just a nuisance in the match, and making it
Yeah,
like without interfering, because obviously the whole point of a cage match usually is so that no one else can get involved. He forced his way in. He did what he needed to do, and then he left. And I thought that was good. That added to the match.
yeah, he was used perfectly. The just yeah, great match.
I want to really talk about the next thing. It's been the thing that I've been the most excited to talk about since the show, and I'm not talking about the main event. I'm talking about the interview. So, guys, we need to dissect this because this was fucking brilliant. So Tony Schiavone, he struts on over. They've obviously only got a pissing minute before the main event starts.
Yeah.
And director's there, and he's just like, "Oh, it's great to have you." He fucking starts going on a monologue, and there's these two lasses behind him. Tony Schiavone was a bit of a dick. He didn't really pay much attention to him, which is quite bad given like the tone of the movie. We've just had this amazing women's match. My background's stressing me out. It looks like a bloody acid trip in the background. Let me just find my angle. So the director kind of says, well, why don't we ask these actresses that have made it happen? Tony Schiavone, he don't have fucking time for this, but he's been backed into a corner now and he looks like a dickhead. So he goes up to these two lasses and he goes, well, what's inspired you about wrestling? He don't give a shit. This tall lass, she takes the fucking mic, she goes,
Yeah,
my
she's
favourite
grabbing
thing
it.
about yeah, they have it like in a death grip. They are taking their fucking moment. My favourite thing about pro wrestling is you're going to win before anyone else does. We've just watched these two guys murder each other in a pissing cage match. They've just tried to sell Kyle Fletcher. He's like broken his neck. We've got the main event in a minute. And this lass has just broken kayfabe on pay-per-view. It was so funny. It made me really mad, but it was so funny.
I mean, the whole thing was just like, is this happening? Can we not just go to the main event? Like, what is this right now? Could we not have done this in the pre-show?
Could this not have been an email?
Yeah. I mean, I did think, like, well, you could construe that in, like, an inspirational message type of way. Like, oh, she means,
I think it
like,
was meant to be.
yeah, like, you believe in yourself. You believe you're going to win before anyone else does. But when she said it, it was just sort of like one of those moments where everyone was like, did she actually just... What did she say?
Oh, it was so
bizarre.
It was so funny. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, the whole thing was a train wreck from start to finish, and it really tickled me.
I mean, that would have pushed me over the edge if I'd stayed up live to watch that. I was watching it at like 3 a.m.
At this point, I was really tired, and I was debating watching the main event the next day, but then because the cage match had been so awesome and so bloody, and the Spanish Fly I think really woke me up, because those types of matches, you are locked in, you are fully like, oh my god. And then I was like, oh fuck it, I guess I'll watch the main event, and I'm glad I did, because I got to like watch the live reactions, and that's the best thing, like the live chats and stuff, and seeing what other people are saying. You go through these moments together. I think it was like people were saying that, like you were saying about people loving the Mariah Tony thing, people were fully united in the hatred of the fuckery that was Adam Copeland versus Jon Moxley. So to start with, before we can get into the match, this was always going to be set up bad, because, as I've already said at the start of this pay-per-view is full of young guys and young gals, exhibition matches, high spots. Every match had a big spot that was highly impactful, and this was as I said before, I don't want to watch this. It's two WWE style guys. What do you mean by that, Estelle? Well, exactly what you see in this. It was a WWE style main event in front of a crowd that had no appreciation for that. It had no place on this show, and it was set up bad from the get-go, even without the result.
Yes. I think we dissected this, didn't we, like a few weeks ago? We said, like, this is going to be a slow-paced match because that's how these two both wrestle. And I think we said, like, we're anxious about how this is going to play out because you need opposites in the ring. And, it's hard to say, but, these two, they're similar styles, and that doesn't really work when your style is slow-paced and like methodical and just not that exciting, especially in the main event, especially when compared to all the other matches we had tonight. So we sort of anticipated it. At least we were mentally prepared.
So we had the stiff blows. I did like the start. It's like two
Yeah,
animals
slugfest.
locking horns. Yeah, slow, methodical. Mox manipulating the neck. Ops were in the stand. Could this not have been an email? Why do I need to see all these people? Why do I need to see that? Like, what is? I understand that the Death Riders have attacked him, but again, massive, massive, massive credit to commentary because they really had to dig deep to sell anything in this match as something interesting. I mean, it was just rest holds and pressure on the neck, and it was fucking boring. But they were having to dig so deep because they need maximum energy for the main event. The crowd are giving nothing. Granted, they got into it a little bit more towards the end because things occurred, but fuck me, did they have a task
Yeah.
getting the people at home to care?
Oh yeah, I thought the exact same thing. And as a commentator myself, I find it really hard to commentate when the wrestling is either bad or just boring. And I'm not that experienced, so that's the sort of thing you get better at with time. But I find it really fucking hard. Especially like, how do you feel? How do you feel that time? What the fuck do you talk about? But they found a lot of things to talk about, and they did really well. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Although it did make me laugh when someone, I don't know who, said, "Oh, there's a hush around this arena with this match," as if it was like, "Wow, they're in awe of this match." It's like, no, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be pointing that out. That is not a good thing.
There was nothing to point out. Like they were just clutching at straws. You know what I mean? It was so shit. Like, what can you say? I will say as well, Mox threatening to break Cope's neck and then like he exposes the floor and he's thrown himself. There's something to be said about the fact that that just has no impact. Like, I think with like Cope's neck because it's been targeted so often and the brutality that we'd seen already, it was like threatening to break his neck. It just had no impact. Like there
Yeah.
was I don't know, and it
And
really shouldn't. If a man literally had his career ended from a neck injury, and the whole match is his neck being worked over, and someone's threatening to break their neck, that should have some kind of
yeah,
stake to it, right? You would think.
100%. I mean, compare it to Bryan Danielson. Whenever he does something like that, it's so impactful, and you believe it, and you're cringing, and you're praying he's gonna be okay. So yeah, you compare that to this, and it's miles apart, isn't it? Um, and also the floor spot, like tearing up the mat. I've never understood that spot, and I really hate it. It's one of my pet peeves in wrestling where they tear up the padding on the outside. I hate it. But also it's so tame compared to everything else we saw on this card. Like the extreme, especially the two, where we saw a lot of blood, the Tony Mariah and Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay. They were so extreme. They took it to the absolute limits, and then this is in the main event, and it's a suplex or whatever it was on the floor. Like it's very tame.
Yeah. And you just kind of feel bad for him in a way because they were really trying, and this is the thing, they were doing their best. But it's
Mhm.
like maybe their best just ain't good enough in the nicest way possible. And we hate the WCW comparisons, but can you get more WCW than this? Two old, outdated
Oh,
relics of the past in the nicest way possible. As someone who really, I have a fondness for Moxley, but like Copeland, my guy, like one of my childhood favorite wrestlers, a lot of love there. But it's like, can you get more WCW than the white hot undercard popping off? The fans saying they want one thing, and these two being booked in such an egotistical, self-indulgent way. In that the only thing they served was their own egos. No one else was enjoying it, but it was all for their egos.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I struggle because I love Moxley, and I do think he's genuinely. I feel like he would have been disappointed, and I feel like I want to not blame him for it for some reason because I feel like it's not his fault, and I don't like it when he gets criticized. And I'm not saying like sometimes he does deserve criticism, like everyone does, but I don't know. I feel like I said this on other episodes, like just since Adam Copeland's returned from his injury, he's just not really had many good matches. And all of his matches have been slow and very drawn out. And I've not particularly enjoyed any of them. He is 51. John Moxley is 39. Just
I don't think
as
it's
a
particularly
reference
on one
point.
wresler or the
No,
other.
and
I
I
think the
also
thing is, right,
think,
they're both great, but
yeah,
they just should never have been in this position.
exactly. Yeah,
That's the issue.
that's what I was about to say. It's
Yeah.
obviously like it's on them to put on a good match, but like you've said at the start, they just put in a corner with it. There was only so much they could do, especially in the position that they were in, where it's clear that like we as wrestling fans want to fresh new faces. We want the future. The future's now. Like let's have two really young women, Toni Storm and Mariah May, in the main event because they've proven that they can deliver, and it's proven that Cope versus Moxley, sadly, it's not a draw. Like I don't think anyone really bought a ticket for this pay-per-view with that in mind as the match they really, really wanted to see. Yes, you'd be excited for it, but it's not the draw, I don't think, and it just goes to prove that you know, building around the big stars, the big names, the veterans, the more experienced wrestlers, it's not always right and it doesn't always work. You got to be able to read the room. The room is telling you we love these younger stars and they're gonna deliver something better on the night when you know when push comes to shove and there's a lot of pressure. They can deal with that pressure, and you know they can work at a higher rate. They can tell more compelling stories because it's fresh and it's new.
It's knowing when to not when to step down in this regard because these guys are two guys that fucking love wrestling, right?
Yeah,
They love wrestling more than anything. They just and this is the thing, right? I really don't want to shit on them specifically because they're just out there doing their best. So it is really on Tony Khan to know when to edit and where to put
yeah,
people and keeping egos in check. Not that I think these two are egotistical maniacs, but it's just yeah, it's this concept of clout and perceived clout and what is the actuality of it. Like yeah, one of Moxley and Cope might have more mainstream appeal, but you know we AEW is not targeted towards the mainstream. It's not on Netflix. It's for the hardcore fans, and that is your fan base. So that is who you should be appeasing. Because I tell you what, if you lose that, they're gonna have fucking nothing, absolutely nothing. So I think a lot of
exactly.
people have a lot of grace and a lot of you know, we can get past things and we can be forgiving. And I think the AEW core fan base, not the casuals and not the people that just watch it to shit on it, but the people who have stuck with it since a long time, we really want to see it succeed.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly. Yeah,
still like the charity is so far, and when we're so charitable towards AEW and we've gone through a lot of shit with it, when this is what's presented to us, it felt like a very fuck you. And the outcome of the match, which we'll get into because obviously we're running through it and I want to, you know, run through it properly. But it was very Vince. It was very Vince booking of this is what I want, and so this is what you're gonna get, even though this isn't what you want, which is a choice.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think yeah, it's difficult, and I don't want people to think that I hate Adam Copeland because I don't. I'm not at all
No, no,
trying to
you don't. You just
blame
you're
this
just
on
saying
him.
what everyone's you're just saying what everyone's thinking, you know? Like you yeah, since coming back he hasn't had the best matches and this is the thing, right? Things would hurt less if this just wasn't the main event. It's just
Oh
rubbing
yeah.
salt in the wound. That's all this match was. It was just like, oh fuck yeah, let's get some salt, let's get some bleach, let's get some broken glass and just really dig in there. Like that's what this was.
Mm. It's just it's hard to come down so hard from such a brilliant show. That makes it even worse, doesn't it? When
Yeah,
that's
but the thing
and
is,
when you ended on that note.
people like a lot of people are really upset about this, but I had to laugh, guys, because yeah, I was disappointed, I was pissed off,
But where were you during Full Gear when my man Jay White lost? We was 3-on-1 against a guy who had a broken fucking foot. Where were you then? Because I tell you what, that to me is one of the honestly, I don't think it's impacted anyone as much. People have moved on. I've not moved on.
Yeah, you've
I've
not moved on. You talk about this often.
And I never will. I never. I don't think you understand how mad that made me. So this was bad, but it was funny to me because once you've hit that low, now you're all on my level.
You know,
how
to an
I was
extent as
feeling.
well, like we expected this to happen. We said that this was probably gonna happen. Like the match
Yeah.
was probably not gonna was probably gonna under deliver, and Moxley's probably gonna work out champion. I'm
But
pretty sure we anticipated it.
we anticipated that, right? But what we hoped for was that the angle was going to save it. We always went
Yes.
in knowing the match was going to suck, but we thought that the angle
Thought he'd have a saving grace.
it didn't. So we'll just carry on. So Cope with the roll up, Mox bumps Cope into the ref, taking him out. God, there was a lot of shouty ref spots tonight. We really amped up the refs' authority, which was I didn't enjoy the most.
No, me neither.
Seen and not heard, please.
Exactly. And JR was agreeing with us. He was saying, I think Bryce was being a bit too vocal there. I was like, thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jimbo. Mox setting up the concerto, but Cope kicks the chairs into Mox's face. He's holding it. Yuta comes in, does the Psycho knee to Cope, gives Moxley the briefcase. This was like the first thing because, okay, it's fine, but it's just not what you wanted to see. And it kind of stung as I get it. It was effective because it stung because it felt like Cope had kind of reached into Yuta and he'd finally, gotten through to him. And then the fact that Yuta had stabbed him in the back, it felt like they'd really like formed a deep respect for one another. But also, this was the telling point of which it ain't looking good. If Yuta's still heel, it ain't looking good.
Well, yeah, I didn't even get the impression that he might have, he might help Cope. I just feel like it wasn't given enough time to breathe for that to set in for me. I was like, well, it's obvious he's going to help Mox. So I didn't even get that. I didn't really get that story beat, to be honest. I just thought, well, here he is. And like you said, that didn't bode well.
Jay White comes down, but he takes Cope out with the briefcase. So that was helpful. We had the 3 spears, but Christian pulls the ref out and cashes in. So this was a very probably the highest moment in the match.
This was exciting.
Have been clamoring for this, and yeah, so very quickly he's been choked out by Mox. And I will say one thing that I did enjoy was the fact that he was reaching out for Copeland, which was kind of poetic, knowing like their brotherhood and their sort of like relationship. I did enjoy that. But yeah, Mox just chokes him out very quickly for the win. So I'll quickly just tag on the end as well. He walks out, Prince Nana confronts Mox, and then Swerve dives on him for the save because it was
to send the people home happy.
Yeah, so that was the full ending. So yeah, let's just unpack all that therapy time, guys.
Well, yeah. So I mean, one of the only positive things I took from this match was that Mox did a curb stomp on the outside, and I was like, oh, Shield girlies, this is for us. Bryce Remsburg got absolutely clobbered, what he deserves. Yuta looked really disappointed in himself for hitting Cope and not Mox, but I was just like, oh, just get to the point already, Yuta, just make a decision, stop being such a little brat. But I love him. I say that with all the love in my heart. I understand. This is a vehicle for Cope versus Christian going forward. okay, that'll be a cool feud. There's a lot. We all know the history between them two, and we all wanted it to happen. Um, with so they're doing that without the title in the picture, so it's like lower stakes without this big championship like ramifications. I get it, but oh my god, it was so underwhelming. Like when we discussed like all the things that could have happened, all these theories, there were so many directions we thought it could have gone in, and it just felt so disappointing that. I mean, I really thought that Christian was going to pin Cope, and that was going to be the ending, and that would have been a nice ending because you've not put a full stop in the Death Rider story because Mox hasn't been pinned, so he still has a claim for the championship, and then we've got a feud going on with Cope and Christian. We've got a new champion. People can stop complaining about Mox being champ, etc. But the fact that he was choked out as well. See, there's no big moment of the 1, 2, 3. There's no tapping out. The referee just goes, "Oh no, he's out," and you could hear everyone groan. It was very anticlimactic. It was just like,
It wasn't heel heat. It wasn't it wasn't like boo, like you're a dick. It was fuck
yeah,
sake.
exactly,
It's not
exactly.
it's not the good kind of heat. It's not the good kind of heat, girl. We're not
No,
cooking.
yeah, and I feel like we've said, I just feel bad for everyone involved because they're giving it their all and they're not reaping anything from it.
Reaping what they're sowing.
Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, obviously it benefits Moxley, but it just feels like a really wasted opportunity for this cash in as well. I mean, how quick was
That's
that?
been a year's about, well, maybe nearly a year's build up,
Yeah,
and it
and he's
was
done nothing with it.
the patriarchy in general. They're just doing nothing. And I really enjoy the patriarchy act. I think a lot of people do, and there's interesting things that have been shown, like the tensions, and obviously when Luchasaurus comes back, it'll be nice to see some dissension, and yeah, just nothing. And what a wasted opportunity. It was like this match was booked in the way that how can we piss people off the most? And the thing is, right, I'm not saying it had to be booked. Like, I'm not one of those people's like, well, it wasn't booked how I wanted it. Okay, fine. The Death Riders win. Okay, fine. And it would have been cool. Maybe Jay White turning heel. That would have been drama. And okay, maybe if Christian's cash in had a failed, that would have been fine too. But it was the fact. It was everything. It was the fact that it failed, but he just got choked out within like two
Yeah, it
seconds. He
looks
was
so
barely
shit.
in the match. It was just the flattest ending, the most unsatisfying ending. And then again, as I've kept reiterating over and over again, the fact that this was on last. And I was
Yeah,
thinking as well, because we're getting to the end of the podcast now, what's the rating going to be? And I don't know, because it's so difficult, because the show was so good. Nothing was out like overtly bad, but then the thing is, the main event, it's the main event, it's what you stay up for, it's the headliner, it goes on last, it's the
hmm
most important, so that really can leave a bad taste in your mouth. And it's just so disappointing that it unfortunately did.
we've had this debate before, haven't we? Where like a show's been pretty solid, but then you end on a sour note, and it just sort of it alters your perception of the entire show, especially obviously especially a pay-per-view. So yeah, I just think I don't know about a rating because there was so many good matches. There was so many good matches. There was like three meh matches. The main event, well, but then the other two weren't really meh. They were just not as good as the other ones. So Brody King versus Okada and the tag team title match, they were still solid. So then it feels, in light of that, it feels harsh to give it a to severely lower the rating.
Put it this way though, if the Death Riders match hadn't have occurred, what would you rate it?
That's like where you need to start your baseline. Because for me, if that hadn't happened, I think I'd rate it a 9
Yeah,
or a
same.
9.5.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
But
I
I
was
ain't
thinking
rating it a
nine.
9 or 9.5 because that fuck ass ending. So it's gonna be
Mm.
a lot lower. But
Yeah,
it's like
my
how much do you take off? You know,
mm,
how much is it? Because an 8 feels really low.
doesn't it? Doesn't it? And even especially like you go to 7.5, that feels super, super low, like too low. I don't know, sounds like we're landing on like an 8.5.
8.25.
8.25.
That's the only thing that feels right because 8.5 it's way too high for that ending, and 8 is just criminally low for what we got.
For the caliber of wrestling on the majority of the card, you have to give
Mm.
credit to that.
Yeah, so an 8.2.5 it shall forever be dubbed, and yeah, it was going in, it was one of the hottest cards that they've ever put together.
Oh, for
Like I
sure,
said, we've got
yeah.
a lot of amazing matches, and I think the main takeaway is AEW has far too much of a stacked roster for the main event scene to be as weak as it is. It makes absolutely no sense when you've got a wealth of talent. You've got so much, and there's a lot of people as well that weren't even on this show that could
Yeah.
have equally had a spot and also stepped up. To have the men's title picture be as bad as it is truly it's some food for thought. And but it's like I feel like Tony Khan, as I've said before, he cannot pivot, and I feel like yeah, he's had to pivot. Obviously Shane McMahon had something to do with it,
You
Darby
think?
Allin wanting to still go on a hike. I think there's a lot of uh things that have contributed towards. I do not think this was ever the plan for the Death Riders. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think Brian Danielson would have gone out on his semi-retirement on this foot. It was obviously
Mm,
intended to be the big trigger to start the revolution in AEW. And the fact of the matter is, they never really needed that because they always had the talent. It was just about the booking. Um, but yeah, I think there's a lot of things at play. But I think he's still like the Undisputed Kingdom. He really does not like pivoting until he is absolutely forced to and pressured to. And I think we are getting to that point. I do think the pressure is somewhat working. But yeah, it's just he's got a plan. He wants to stick with it, and I don't know. I think if they hadn't sent Swerve out, I felt like. Well, I mean, they did have a fight in the stands, didn't they, at some point during that main
really?
event? Because everyone was, yeah, I did. Everyone was on the hard cam watching to the right, and apparently there was a fight in the stands that
Oh my
people were
God.
choosing to watch over the main event.
Oh
Says it all.
well, get them in the main event next time. No,
Yeah.
I'm choosing to try and believe there's going to be some sort of payoff that's going to make it worth it.
Yeah, but I
That's
think have we gone beyond that?
mm,
People's patience. The payoff is just going to be like a thank God it's over. And I
yeah,
feel like
right.
tonight was their last opportunity. The charity that people had was at the bottom of the fucking barrel. I feel like tonight was the last opportunity for it to make an impact. Now it's just too self indulgent. And that's coming from me. Really likes Death Riders. I really liked it. But I think you've got to reach a point where you've got to say, look, it didn't go how we wanted it to go. Let's just salvage it and squeeze out whatever's left. Because there is still greatness in there, like the whole Utah thing. But it's like you
Yeah.
say, you have a lot of love for Utah, but it's getting to the point of annoyance now.
Mm. Well, yeah,
It's
because it's just been watered down, and you just
exactly.
gets to the point where you just lose interest. You don't really, you're not that interested anymore. So yeah, I'm hoping. Oh, maybe I'm just setting myself up for disappointment, but well, it's gonna come to an end one day, guys. So be happy because it's gonna end. I guess.
Don't be sad it's over. Be happy it happened, I guess.
Mm. Don't be sad it happened. Be happy it's over. That's
Don't
where.
be don't be happy
Right, please sound off in the comments.
Yeah, do let us know what you thought of AEW Revolution 2025. What rating would you give it out of 10? Because I do think that many people might think we've been generous because I
Don't
know
be
that.
happy it happened. Don't be sad that it's over. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry.
Was it? Okay. Nonetheless, yeah. If you're watching us for the first time, please do subscribe or follow. It means the world to us, and we really do appreciate it. And if you've been here for a long time, again, we really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. And I'll be interested to read your comments because we do read them all. So
I want to
think
hear
this
some
is,
venting.
yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of venting. I'm excited. You know, this is group therapy. This is a safe place.
We
For us
listen,
all
we
just
don't
to
judge.
get it
much.
off our chest. Yeah, we don't judge much.
I feel like I said like fantasy booking the Death Riders. We should like nightmare book them now.
Yeah,
Get Sammy
we've gone
Guevara
so
in there.
far.
Get Chris Jericho. Let's just make it an absolute fucking dumpster fire at this point.
Yeah, what? Yeah, Chris Jericho ends the Death Riders.
Yeah, why not?
Perfect ending. Why not at this point? Yeah, thank you ever so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you for a Dynamite review. Not very long,
Aye.
not very far away. So yeah,
Aye.
goodbye.
I must bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night, bad.
I wish you died in the womb!